Moshi Moshi, I'm Spazzatic Studio, and this is your least favorite podcast that nobody knows exists. Welcome to the second channel where we do all the yapping with none of the brain cells. Let us discuss. I have so much to tell you. I have so much to yap about. We're doing it all, baby. 2024 in review, 2 months into 2025. We're talking AI allegations. We're talking going viral on Instagram. We're talking breakups. We're talking cancer. We're doing it all. Every facet of human imagination, we're talking about it. If you do not know, my name is Spazz. I run Spazzatic Studio. I am Spazzatic Studio. My main channel is where I do well thought out video essays and talk about things that are relevant to art. And this is where I go to just talk about the nonsense that happens in my life. People say that they find my voice soothing. I don't really understand how, but okay, sure. And they like listening to me talk about my problems. So if that makes you feel better, you're in the right place. Let's do it. 2024 was such a weird, it was such a trip. Again, if you're new here and you don't know me, I had super rare super cancer of the soft tissue variety. It wasn't sarcoma proper, it was like a tumor that's in the sarcoma family. It can't metastasize, and so it has to be treated very differently. The treatment depends on basically the severity of the tumor. Mine was unusually severe. And so for 3 years, I had to have a bunch of experimental shit done to me to see if we could, like, do anything about this tumor. In the end, the tumor exploded. I had a surgery, because my cancer was, chemo and radio resistant. I had a surgery called a cryoablation, where they basically go in and they try to, like, chemically kill the tumor. And the idea is that over the period of a year, your body will, like, reabsorb the tumor. And then you pee out the cells. My tumor exploded. My tumor exploded. It punched a hole through my intestine. I don't even know how. My tumor was on my abdominal wall. I guess when it exploded, it also, like, exploded inward. But it punched a hole. It created what's called a fistula. A fistula is an abnormal connection between organs. In my case, it punched a hole between my intestine, my abdominal wall, and the outside world. And so my surgery wound, I woke up one morning in a puddle of blood. But luckily there was no pain when it happened, and the reason is that usually when you have an intestinal perforation, the contents of your intestine like re-enter your body, and so that's what causes pain. But in my case, the explosion, it, like, exploded outwards, and so I was literally bleeding shit and shitting blood, and so it was awful. It was awful. My intestines fell out of me. I puked poop. I was septic. I was in palliative care. I was supposed to die, and then I didn't die. I had to make, like, a literal 9.5-month saga as short as possible. I had 4 corrective surgeries, 2 major surgeries, the last of which was a resectioning. So a quarter of my abdomen is just gone. I'm just organs and skin. I have a temporary colostomy bag while that part of my body, like, settles and figures itself out. I still have to have more surgeries, which we're gonna talk about. I think they're coming this year, and we'll get into it. But yeah, cancer sucks. It's such shit. I lost all my hair. I wasn't doing chemo, but I was on other medications that have similar side effects to chemo because they kill all your white blood cells and they stop your body from producing, I think it's vitamin B6 is what makes all your hair fall out. A lot of bullshit. So basically I'm the bionic woman now. And, like, it is what it is. The tumor that I had, like, you have to have all of these, like, crazy factors for you to get it because it's so rare. I think the statistic is 4 It's like 4 in 1 million people to be diagnosed. At the time that I was in the hospital, I know for a fact, because they like told me, that I was the only person there with that severity of tumor. I know that there was another person that had the tumor, but he had it in his intestine, and they just removed the whole, like, that piece of intestine. Which, you have so much intestine, you can literally just take pieces out and stick it back to, what an unfortunate hand gesture, and stick it back together. In my case, I had what's called a diverting colostomy. So usually a colostomy is you remove the intestine, and then that, like, that part of that intestine, because it's been removed, that would connect to your butthole, connects to the outside world. In my case, what they did was they just moved my large intestine from one end of my abdomen to the other, like higher up. My colostomy is like right at the midpoint of the abdomen, and then they cut open the side of the intestine, and then they expose that to the outside world. And they'll do that in cases of emergency where you have like intestinal rupturing, perforations, you got stabbed in the ass. Like, it's just to make sure that poop is not able to get back into you. And so I had that because my fistula, that unnatural connection that basically was connecting my intestine to the outside world in a like a colostomy is like it's a surgical procedure. It's like I guess if you could think of it as like a sterile way to connect your intestine to the outside world. The fistula was just a constant abscess. So, yeah, a nightmare, like a horrible, painful nightmare and a half. Where was I going with this? Surgeries. Yeah, so we had to have my family's DNA sequenced to see how this tumor appeared, because you have to be a woman post period, premenopause, so producing estrogen, and then once you hit menopause and you don't produce estrogen, you're in the clear forever. What else? You have to be from the Mediterranean. I'm not Greek, but apparently this is a tumor that like plagues Greek people. So Greek people, I guess, be afraid of soft tissue cancer. I don't know. And you have to have, it's like a specific gene. So we had to splice all of our genes and be like, where did it come from? To get the tumor that I had, allegedly, your parents have to have had it. And neither of my biological parents have a soft tissue cancer diagnosis. So how did I get it? Turns out my body just decided to, like, I don't know, mutate. My oncologist thinks that because I have endometriosis, which is an inflammatory disease, and these tumors are caused, not caused by inflammation, but like the body's mutated abnormal response to what should be minor inflammation. But you know, those cells don't die, and so they turn into a tumor. She thinks that because I have endometriosis, the endometriosis, my colostomy bag, oh my god, has caused, is what caused the tumor. That's hilarious. But like, you see what I mean. Big life changes in 2024. My colostomy bag sometimes will just speak because it's not like it's a butthole. I know what you're wondering. Spazz, do you still have a butthole? I do still have a butthole. They weren't sure if they were gonna remove my part of my intestine or just kind of fix it. In the end, they just kind of fixed it. They removed everything else. So like skin, muscle, fat, tissues. That's just how it is when you have a tumor and you have a resectioning, which is just a fancy way of saying cutting shit out of you. They have to remove a certain amount of healthy tissue because cancer cells will hide and then they'll like respawn. And the tumor that I have is very sensitive. Like, they can't really be surgically removed because they'll come back immediately, because your body's process of healing involves some degree of inflammation, and that's what causes the mutation. So all that to say, a real clusterfuck. But I did it. 2024, I got out of the hospital circa February, and I started posting against Instagram in March of 2024 after my birthday, which is coming up. And 2024 was so weird. I got re-diagnosed with CPTSD this time because of almost dying like 11 and a half different times. I had to completely learn how to use my body again. Every time you touch the bowels surgically, your body basically like factory resets. And so everything like it like shocks your metabolism can change, your cues can change. Like for me, I couldn't tell for the longest time when I had to go to the bathroom because my body, like everything felt so different, and I was like, uh, like what is this feeling? And so I would just like I didn't know what, I didn't understand what I was feeling. Like it took me a few months to figure out like, okay, like this means I need to go to the bathroom. Because I have a butthole and a colostomy. Going for my colostomy, it feels like nothing. If I notice that it's happening, it really just feels like a light pressure. But the first time it happens, it freaks you out like so bad. The first time I ever pooped from my stoma, I remember I yelled, "Something's happening!" because I literally thought I was gonna explode, because you feel like the buildup of pressure and then there's like a release, and it was really like every time it happened, it freaked me the fuck out. It was so weird. Every 4-ish months, I use my butthole for the thing that a butthole is for. And that feels pretty normal. But it is weird to be missing most of your abdomen and have to kind of like be like, what is my butt, like I feel something, but like what does it mean? Like, is this a cramp because I'm hungry? Am I nauseous because I'm gonna throw up? Do I have to go to the bathroom? Like everything changes and it's super strange. Because my pelvic floor was touched during surgery, I went through a phase of peeing myself when I went back to the gym, so that was real fun. My body, like again, it's a big adjustment. It's a big adjustment. Imagine someone came up to you and removed like a huge chunk of your torso and was like, okay, go have fun. You know what I mean? Like, it was hard. I rebuilt my muscle wall. I still don't like, I just had my follow-up and the doctor was like, the muscle wall's still weak. But that being said, we went from 0 muscle wall to making one from scratch in the last year. It was a lot of Pilates, a lot of collagen, a lot of effort. My mental health has been crazy. It's been peaks and valleys. I want to talk about it because like I have so much to say. When it comes to having cancer, people are familiar, I think, with the dying, and they're familiar with like the suffering of going through. But then when you live and you have to go carry on your life, it's like people forget that that's the hardest. Like the dying is easy because you don't have a say in it. And then it's not like you have to piece anything back together. Like, you're dead. Who cares? But when you live, it's like, oh no, I have to continue doing my life. I have to file my taxes. I have to get a job. You probably have medical bills to pay. Like, oh my God, I have kids to raise. I have a husband to take care of. I have a house to clean. I have a dog to walk. Like, life doesn't stop just because you lived through cancer. And that's the part that no one talks about. Something that was said to me a lot was like, yeah, but it's over. You're fine now. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not. Like, physically, I'm not. I had so many surgical complications because I have a number of like genetic underlying diseases that are difficult to manage. And then introduce like super major mega surgery to that. It's hard. It's physically terrible. Even for a normal person with no comorbidities, like, do you know how hard it is to have most of your body removed and then people are like, all right, go have fun. You're like, what? Like, You know, and then mentally, like, you are not okay. You cannot, I think, look into the precipice of death and be like, oh, my own mortality that I've been pondering in palliative care, and then just be like, I'll just go back to my life, everything is cool. Like, no, bro, nothing is cool. You know? So, mental health. Um, because my childhood was a nightmare, ooh woo, I already had a CPTSD diagnosis from when I was 17. I have officially, I'm dyslexic, it is what it is, but I don't think that has any bearing on anything. But I have a CPTSD diagnosis from childhood. I have an OCD diagnosis from childhood. OCD and BPD run in my family. I'm very grateful to have OCD and not BPD, because BPD, very different animal, very tough. Um, so I currently have a cancer focused psychologist, a regular psychologist, a psychiatrist, and a counselor. God bless. And even then, I think I'm still a bit of a basket case, but like, whatever, we keep it moving. Um, when I got diagnosed, I thought I had a panic disorder as a teenager, and I went to a psychiatrist, actually, at a hospital, and I was like, please help. And she was like, you don't have a panic disorder, you have OCD. And then many years later, as an adult, when I was diagnosed with CPTSD, they were like, yeah, we don't think you were born with OCD. We think that your OCD symptoms are a manifestation of CPTSD. And historically, is that the word I'm looking for? Other people in my family that I know have a CPTSD diagnosis from a psychiatrist have BPD, and they're like medicated and they're treated for it. And those symptoms, their psychiatrist has told them, are a manifestation of the like CPTSD. Good and fun developments. So post cancer, I got basically re-diagnosed with CPTSD. I was so anxious. Let's get into this. I've been anxious my entire life because CPTSD. I don't think you can take a child and give it a parent who's a PDF file and make it live next door to a crack house in the ghetto and beat it every day and be like, this will be a well-adjusted adult. Like, I just don't think that, you know? So, CPTSD. I've been anxious all my life to varying degrees. There have been periods in my life where I've been anxious and just kind of cognizant of it and been like, well, I can get on with my day. And then there is like earth-shattering, I cannot function anxiety. My anxiety is agoraphobic in nature. I have to constantly force myself to leave the house, even if it's just to walk around the block, because if I fester too long in this room, I will become not just unable to leave the house, but unable to leave this room. So, I've been medicated for that since 17, 18, possibly 2018. It's been a while. It's been a long time. Post cancer, it wasn't enough because I was experiencing anxious psychosis, which is when you enter a state of hallucinatory anxiety. It's really bad. And so I checked myself into a psychiatry clinic at a psychiatry hospital, and I was like, hey, fix me. It wasn't even just, oh, I can't leave the house. It was a matter of I can't exist. From the moment I opened my eyes to the moment that it wasn't even a question of falling asleep, that my panic attacks would just make me black out from severity. I could not function. And if you've ever been in that boat with anxiety, you will know that it's not fun, and there is really no form of therapy or meditation or anything in the entire universe that can help you. Enter medications. So I was like, I need an anxiety medication. And it worked out great. Like I've had to go up in dose 3 times. So I'm currently on 2 SSRIs. And I feel personally that I could even up the dose of SSRI number 2. I can't take rescue medications. Part of the annoying ass genetic quirky, that I have is that I have like over 165 medication intolerances. Some of them are allergies, like anaphylaxis allergies. Some of them are just medication doesn't work. So the big problem, and if you've ever had a resectioning, this is going to be real impressive to you. The big problem is that painkillers and sedatives do not work. So from a surgical perspective, opioids don't work. Morphine don't work. Methadone, ketamine, Versed, fentanyl don't work. None of it works. Do you know how I recovered from my resectioning? I'm going to look into your eyes when I say this. Do you know how I recovered? Tylenol and Advil. And the will of the Lord. Like, do you know how, it's the equivalent of saying, yeah, they chopped my leg off, but they gave me like a couple extra strength Tylenol and I got through that shit. Girl. Pain medication doesn't work on me. Sedatives don't work on me. Lidocaine, bupivacaine, all of the different canes you can give me. I'm not even joking because they experimented on me in the hospital, like to see if there was anything the palliative care could think to give me for pain. You could shoot me full of fentanyl and ketamine and methadone, and I am fully awake and fully coherent and fully in pain. The problem with sedatives not working is that the rescue medication for anxiety doesn't work. So I can't take Xanax and I can't take clonazepam and I can't take, like, it doesn't work. Nothing happens. They gave me at one point schizophrenia medication. They gave me olanzapine. That didn't work either. And so it's like, what do you do for someone who is so anxious that they're experiencing psychosis who cannot be on a sedative? So I just raw dog that shit. Literally 2 SSRIs and prayer power. Like, I don't even know how else to describe it. I basically like devoted my 2024 to seeking solutions for the extreme amount of anxiety. I read a bunch of books. I got myself a psychiatrist and a psychologist and a this and a that, and I started meditating and I forced myself to do exposure therapy and I journaled and I, like, it's not perfect. I still get anxious. I still have to leave places sometimes. I still get overstimulated very quickly. It's difficult sometimes to overcome the agoraphobia. Because I am so sensitive, and I find that physically I'm sensitive to a lot more than I ever have been. And what I mean by that is, like, my entire being has kind of changed post-cancer. I was always sort of delicate, but now I'm, like, very delicate. If I work myself a little too long, if I'm really in the zone and I'm drawing and it's 3 a.m. and I've been at it for hours, the brain is willing. I'm having the time of my life. I don't feel like I'm overworked. I will puke. I will faint because my body just can't sustain that level of, like, I've become delicate. And so my anxiety attacks now will take me out for like days at a time when it's really full force, because my body has such a hard time regulating itself. I don't know if with time these things will change. They may very well change. Like, it's entirely possible that a miracle occurs. Who knows, you know? Stranger things have happened. But it is still very difficult. I still force myself. Sometimes I have the anxiety of somebody being hunted for sport, and I force myself to go walk around in minus 27 snowstorm blizzard, because I know that if I do not leave this room, not only will I not be able to leave the house, I will not be able to leave this room. The most intense that the agoraphobia has ever been has been to the point that I can't even venture outside my bedroom, which is not a good place to be. Like, it's not a good place to be because it's just not, like, you can't get anything done, you can't live your life, but it's also not a good place to be because it's like, it's so easy with agoraphobia to undo your progress, because the more that the agoraphobic brain finds shelter inside wherever you are, the harder it is to get yourself back out there. And so through a series of literally forcing myself and puking in public, we get it done. Like, so by 2024 was a lot of that. I started drawing again after my birthday. I was like, why am I hiding? Why am I hiding from my love of drawing? Why am I like embarrassed to post? Um that's the studio account I've had, I think since 20, probably since 2019 or 2020. I used to just post to my personal account, honestly. I've been on Instagram for not the longest time ever, 2018. Um, as a youngster, I had a secret Tumblr account, and yeah, because my mom was very anti like the internet, whatever. So, okay, boomer. But yeah, so I got into Instagram a little late, but made the studio account. It was quarantine. We had nothing going on. I like did just realism for years, and not even like stylized realism, just literally like just realism. Like look at thing, draw thing, very minimal changes to thing. Um I thought that's what I liked, and it was fun. It's not that it wasn't fun. I learned a lot of valuable skills. I learned how to paint. I learned how to like not really learn, but I refined my realism skills. But then I realized that like I wanted to just do anime, and I wanted to figure out what my style was, because I felt like I didn't have one um anymore, because I had spent so many years now at that point, by the time quarantine ended, just doing realism, and I was like, well, this is lame. I'm not fulfilled. So I deleted everything off the studio account, and then because of the cancer, it just kind of sat there. Um, I was diagnosed with cancer towards the end of quarantine. I'm trying to think of exactly when it was 3 years in total. So what is that? Like, let's say, assuming the last year was 2023 to, so like let's say end of 2020, beginning of 2021-ish. The quarantine was a weird time. I used it to my advantage. I had a blast. I graduated. I got 3 college degrees. I finished those. My dad actually had cancer the entire time quarantine was happening, like the entire COVID, the peak years, and so that was a freaking, that was a lot. That was a lot for me. That was a lot for my family. It was a whole thing. But whatever. I was very busy during quarantine, is kind of my point. I had started, for all of you Indian people out there, Bharatanatyam Arangetram training, and that was really nice. I can't do Bharatanatyam anymore with this broken ass body, but like, just thought I'd pepper that in for flavor. Yeah. I am a homebody. Like, agoraphobia aside, I do like to be at home because I have so many hobbies apart from doing weeb shit. Um, but yeah, I was pretty much an unknown on Instagram for all of those years with my studio account. I had maybe like, I don't know, 10 followers, like 13 on a good day. And so in March when I started posting again, I kind of just came out of nowhere and I was like, "Hey, look at this." And like it's funny because the Christmas, the mid-cancer Christmas, um I had taken Camo's Course 101 class, and I got back into like continuing my art education. I was like taking courses. I was studying a lot. I had like revisited my like college, like formal art school training, and I was like, yeah, I feel like we're making progress. Like I'm really leaning into like anime. I was having a real a good old time, and so I think that like by the time I started posting to Instagram again, it's kind of like the prodigal son returns, you know? This like prolific artist comes out of nowhere. But I still didn't really have a style, and I didn't really have plans for what I wanted my style to be. So I was just kind of aimlessly, like, not copying people, like doing exact reproductions of their work, but I was like, well, I took all these courses. Let me see if I can implement things, and maybe that'll like lead me somewhere. And I'm really happy because coming into 2025, I feel like I've begun now to develop a style that is mine and that I enjoy doing. And like there's always going to be bumps in the road where you're like, what am I doing? And you kind of lose all motivation because you think you suck. And I'm kind of in that rut right now. I'm trying to get myself out of it. But it's still fun. Because, like, if you accept that the shape of the universe is a circle and that there is no destination and that everything is a journey, then you can get on with it. You know, life, art, relationships, whatever. If you just accept that, like, there is no beginning and end point, the whole thing just, you just keep going and it's going to be peaks and valleys forever, then I think you become intrinsically a happier person. Before we get to the 15-year-olds on Twitter fiasco, we do have to take a pause and talk about the last bit of cancer. So I am waiting for another surgery. It's happening in the spring. I am having a hysterectomy. I'm having excision surgery for endometriosis. I'm having my colostomy bag reversed. In terms of having the bag reversed, phew, bro. Because I do not need it, and it does not add anything to my life, except for bills. So there you go. The hysterectomy thing. So because of the endometriosis, I've known that I cannot produce a child for a long time. Physically, I'm in stage 1 of the disease. I could technically, maybe, sort of, according to my surgeon, attempt to produce a child. The issue more so is that chemically, I can't do it. And the problem with soft tissue cancer is because it's so hormone reactive, the HCG that they give you to do an egg retrieval is no bueno. And so not only can I not, like, become pregnant, I can't do an egg retrieval. If I have kids, they have to be adopted. I cannot have any children of my own. And, like, I've kind of known. I've known that this was coming since I was, like, 14. Because endometriosis runs in my family, and I know what that's like. I've seen countless people in my family struggle immensely to conceive, with varying results. Some of them have been able to pull it off. Some of them have not. And so it's not like it was like, what do you mean I'll never have children? It still sucks shit. You know, I would have liked to do the whole white picket fence, golden retriever, nuclear family shtick. I think maybe at one point in my life that's what I wanted my life to look like. But now as an adult who's approaching 30, I'm like, like, it's fine. Honestly, when I think about raising children, I'm like, do I want to be beholden to a child for 18 years minimum? No, not really. I want to spend my money on me and shake ass on a yacht in Dubai. Like, and so they were like, what do you want to do with this uterus? And I was like, well, I'm trying to cut my chances of having cancer again. So, like, yeah, take it out. Like, I don't want a period. I don't want kids. It's not that important to me. And, like, that's a whole other topic of conversation, because when you tell people as a woman, I don't want kids, and especially when you tell doctors I would like a hysterectomy, everybody loses their goddamn mind, because we are so conditioned to see women not as people, but rather as baby makers. And it's like, well, if I don't seem mournful of the decision, I don't understand why everybody has to mourn it for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not telling you to get a hysterectomy. I'm telling you to give me a hysterectomy. It's a whole thing. I'm less bothered by it. Like, the infertility thing, it's kind of a non-issue for me. I think when I was, like, younger, and by younger, I mean when I was 14, I was like, oh, I'll never have children. But now I'm like, bro, fuck them kids. Like, I don't want them. I don't want them. You can have them. I'm giving them back to God. You gave me a uterus, I'm giving it back. Girl. You know? However, if you're in a relationship, this muddies the waters somewhat. Now, we all know the statistic that, like, women with cancer, their ain't shit partners will leave them. Girl. Let me testify for a moment. Let's talk breakups. So, got cancer, ran out of money, could not do, because I wanted to do a PhD. That was my life's goal. That shit's not fucking happening. Got laid off, okay? Taught professionally 4.5 years. Got laid off mid-dying. Shout out. I can't say the company, but shout out them. And so the only thing really that I had left in my life that was still there from pre-cancer was like my boyfriend. I was really more like his boyfriend. I think that once you start financing the relationship and you're doing all the emotional labor, you know, I feel like I should get the cock and balls, but it's neither here nor there. Bro left me to die in palliative care, and then when I didn't die, wanted to just kind of like return to normal and be like, no, we can like fix it. And I was like, well, maybe we can fix it, but like it's gonna take a lot of groveling on your part to fix it. I will give you one hint as to what bro did not do. Like, I had to drag this apology out of him by being like, hey, do you want to acknowledge the fact that you left me to die? And like, perhaps, sir, you are watching this now. Maybe you are. Maybe someone who I know or who knows you is watching this now. And despite what you may think of me or what you may tell people to think of me, I want you to know that the reason that we broke up is specifically because you left me to die. And I know that you know because you acknowledged it when we talked about it. And you were like, yeah, I dropped the ball. So ladies, if you wanna, what is it? Drive my Mercedes? Girl, when the nurse tells you, yo, the statistic of men leaving their wives when they have cancer is like really high, believe that bitch because she's telling you the truth. And I'm telling you the truth too. Trust no man. Run for your life. So that's kind of the final cancer update. So yeah, nuked my life. I'm in a really fun new phase of my life. By shedding the boyfriend and the weirdo ass friends that decided to like side with him instead of check to see if I was alive. I've made more friends. I've started playing Magic the Gathering, which is fun. I go out to a restaurant and do nerd things with my friends minimum once a week. I have gotten involved again in my community. I'm like traveling. It's really fun. So, out with the old and with the new, going into 2025. A little precarious 2024, a little weird, a little strange, but you know what? We did it. And so now we may transition to complaining about, I don't even know where to start. So, the reason I think that I was talking so much about like disappearing off the face of social media and then randomly reappearing one day is that this absolutely worked against me. And I'm going to give you some beginner tips for if you happen to go viral so that you don't do the same bullshit that I did to myself. Because I really dug myself into a hole. Like, that's the only crime that I'll admit to is that like I did it to myself. I did not help my case. So I basically gained like 10K followers in, I don't know, less than 6 months. Like by the end of March, we were at like 700. It was fast. It was quick. It was a lot. Which means it's time for AI allegations. Artists, I think, just have shit all else to do. We've transitioned into this weird period where it's like instead of working on improving myself, I will simply shit on everybody else for street cred. And it's like, well, oh, okay, I don't think that's right. And I know that that's the case because there's I don't want to say that they're bad artists, but there's like beginner artists whose art is just, it's not particularly technically good. And they get accused of AI, and it's like, how, like, man, come on. Like, everybody that you don't like cannot be a fraud, because that's just not how life works. And also, that's insane. What are you doing? So, the pitfalls, I think, of not having a style were people didn't like that my artwork was generic. And to their credit, Yeah, 100%. It was I'm trying to get it to not be generic looking, but the thing is, I don't like stylized anime. In the 2000s, I was not a fan of like moe style. Now they call it moe style, but back then it was just anime. Um, not a fan of 80s style. I don't like Attack on Titan always pissed me off. The manga, I don't like it. I'm looking for what I perceive as the ideal of anime, which is, to be fair, very generic looking. As much as I love, for example, I was talking about camo earlier. Even camo style is too stylized for me. I would never do that. It's not like an insult to camo. It's just not. It's just not what I want to do. It's just not for me. People didn't like that it was very generic, and like I'll give them that point. I think now we're entering a phase of my life where things are more stylized, but at that time, yeah, definitely generic as hell. Point for you. The other thing people, so it's funny, I got accused by two really big accounts of like 50K followers plus, and the first time it happened, I was like, why do you care? Like, what? It was so strange to me because I was like, why are you so mad at a measly little 10K follower account of somebody making Legend of Zelda fan art? Like, why do you care? And then at the end of their crusade, they had gained another like 500 followers because now they were at like 50.5 or whatever, and I was like, oh my god, it's a marketing tactic. And like I remember people telling me like, no, it's a marketing tactic, like that's what it is, not a marketing tactic, but like they know that in people's quest to follow like real virtuous artists, if you launder accusations and you make yourself seem like the arbiter of truth, they'll follow you. And I was like, that cannot be true. Like, it just cannot be. Guess who was wrong? Me. Because that is exactly what it was. There is no doubt in my mind that these accounts who have been doing the same thing for years and years and years and are like stagnant at whatever 1,000 amount of followers, instead of branching out with their content or diversifying their portfolio, they feel the need as big fish in a little pond to end the careers of people who are just starting out before they run the risk of like competing with these bigger accounts. And my hypothesis was kind of proved because when round 2 of this shit happened, and this one was like, okay, the first artist who accused me, I was like, well, you don't know me and I don't really know you, so like, yeah, it could be. Like, it's not like you follow me or we've ever like spoken before. Like, you don't know, you see something that you're like, oh, it's a little odd. Fine, whatever. The second artist though, we had spoken, like we had conversations. I was like, but you know me, coming out the gate 8 months later, AI. I was like, okay, girl, like, fine. It was so weird. I sent her, this time I thought that I was being smart. I sent her, like, layers, time lapses, sketches, this, that, the other thing. I, like, gave all this evidence, and her response was literally just like, no, I don't accept your evidence. And I was like, so then why are we here? If you want me to prove that I'm the one that's drawing my art and I'm giving you proof and you're like, I don't want your proof, then what the fuck? Like, what was the point of this? A huge time. I should have just blocked her and gotten on with my life. The AI accusing... Oh, by the way, she also gained like a couple hundred followers afterwards. And I was like, yeah, that checks out. The 15-year-olds on Twitter were big mad at me, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. The thing with AI witch hunting is that, like, if you make a mistake, proof of AI. If you don't make a mistake, proof of AI. And it's like, well, like, so our work can't be too good, but we're also not allowed to make mistakes because the mistakes we make have to fall under your jurisdiction of what is an acceptable mistake. What are we doing, bro? And the part that baffles me is, like, on my page, There's so much evidence of me drawing. There's so much of it. There's so much of it. There's not just sketches. There's tutorials. There's like content from streams of me drawing. There's like fan requests. There's commissions. There's so much content that you can see with your eyes. It's like, and no one ever does, because they're like, well, why didn't you tell me that the highlights were there? Girl, it's not my job to babysit you on the internet. Use your eyes. Or my favorite excuse, I don't have time to look through your highlights. Okay, so then shut up. Like, why are you arguing with me? Just go look at the evidence. I cannot, like, what is it? The wealth of evidence is not good enough for me. I don't accept that the evidence was ever even there to begin with. It's like, well, then I don't know how to help you, do I? Because, like, I can't do more than this. It's crazy. During the great AI accusationing, part 2 Electric Boogaloo, I did, instead of like a Procreate time lapse, I just screen recorded. I think I drew something in like under 15 minutes, and I was like, here, like, you know what I mean? Could an AI tracer do this? And on Twitter, because at the time I was still on Twitter, I was like, are you guys gonna apologize? Like, can I have an apology now for all the bullshit that you've put me through these last few days? And they just blocked me, and I was like, okay, girl, like, pop off. So, again, it's like, it's crazy. It's so sad and discouraging. My mistakes really were giving them any kind of attention, because the issue, it wasn't so much the whole, like, tracing accusation thing, because it's like, okay, girl, whatever. Like, even if I was, you don't have evidence, you're just saying words. So, I watch. They doxed me. Which, by the way, hilarious, because they doxed me to an employer that I had not been at for years. Also, even if I was still working there, what was your plan? You're gonna call up the school board of California and be like, I don't like the anime titties this bitch drew. What do you want them to do about it? I got a lot of threats. It was weird. I was like, why am I being threatened? It's not that serious. It's just anime titty. Like, you'll be fine. Breathe. Everything's okay. It's insane. I mean, okay, we already know that, like, weebs are insane, and nerds are so diehard about the things that they like all the time. It's not super shocking, but at the same time, it's like, calm down. Like, it's you're fine. It's Robin from Honkai Star Rail. Like, you're not dying. Everything's okay. The world's not ending. It's not the death of art. Like, you're good. We're fine. We don't need to be calling the school board of California. I don't like this interpretation of Robin from Honkai Star Rail School Board of California. Like, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. So my mistake really was giving them any kind of attention, because once you give people who are threatening you attention, they then send more people to threaten you, because it encourages nasty people to be nasty, because they're like, oh, finally an outlet for my impotent rage. Not good. Something else that was interesting was basically one of these idiot artists was like, admit that the reference picture you used is possibly AI. And to their credit, so I did have 2 tutorials on how to do one-to-one reproductions, basically using the engineering drafting method that I learned in college, but applying it to, like, drawing as opposed to applying it to architecture. I took those videos and that content down because at the time I was like, she may very well be correct. And these pictures are AI. Like, I just ripped them off of Google Images. And I remember I told her, I was like, absolutely. Like, I'm a Google Images warrior. It's 100, or Pinterest too. Sometimes AI is so convincing, you don't realize until you're halfway through a piece, and then you're like, wait a second. I was like, if it makes you feel better, because you truly believe that these images are, like, in bad faith being posted to Pinterest, I'll take the tutorials down. And I took the tutorials down. And you know what I shouldn't have done? I should not have taken the tutorials down. I wish I would have stuck to my guns. I took down so much content that I genuinely liked because I thought that if I kept self-censoring according to what these people wanted, that it would make them leave me alone. But the problem with these types of people is that all they know how to do is move the goalpost. And so every time you think that you've given them what they want, they say, no, actually, now I want this, or no, it's not good enough. And so it's like, just stick to your guns. If somebody doesn't like your content, that's really their problem. Leave the content up. Like, that's it. Keep making content. Just leave it up. Unless you're doing something heinous and problematic, in which case, like, yeah, okay. Or if there's, like, concrete evidence of, like, that you like, you should take that down, then it's like, okay, you know what, yeah, you're right. I made a reel once, making fun of lollies. The joke did not come across. People thought that I was, like, trying to make a case. I was like, no. I was like, this is satirical. I took it down. It was my bad. It was in poor taste. It was not a good joke to make. The joke was not well received. I'm not gonna leave that video up. I took it down. Like, you can admit defeat, but I, like, know what you're admitting defeat for. Don't just take things down because it makes other people feel better. Speaking of content, so it's not a secret. Like, the reason that I love drawing digitally is because I can basically do accessibility aids by changing the stabilization of brushes. And like, I've talked about it a lot on my page on Instagram. I have shaky hands. Unfortunately, it is what it is. And so to draw, even digitally, I have to use like adaptive tools, and I use like a brace, and it gets me through it, usually. I suffer with, because again, the endometriosis, like, not lymphedema proper, but like, I have issues with like swelling. I have early onset arthritis. I'm in pain every day of my life. It is what it is. So these things help. These adaptations help with chronic pain. For fun, though, I did buy a paper sketchbook, and I was drawing in the sketchbook, and like, the sketches just, they're not as good because, again, I'm kind of at the mercy of the shittiness of the way that my hands and arms work. So that's nice. In high school, a lot of people used to point it out to me all the time. They were like, why does your hand twitch like that when you're drawing? And I was like, because I'm disabled. Like, ah. And so I took that content down because people were shitting on it. And I wish that I had not taken it down because I shouldn't have let people shit on me and win. So there you go. That was sad. It bounced me off of drawing on paper, and now I am very hesitant still to do it, and I'm very hesitant to share it because I feel like it opens the door to be criticized for being dynamically disabled. And like, that's a whole other thing. People have accused me of like lying about being disabled, which is really something considering, again, more lost media. I had a video of me changing my colostomy for educational purposes. I thought it was just a fun little thing to share, and people shat on that, and I took it down, and I should have kept it up, because then when people were like, I think you're faking being disabled to avoid drawing on paper, I could have been like, well, you can see in the video the shakiness of that. Like, my hands are not shaking all the time. Like, as you can see, they're pretty normal. But I do have, like, I have motor issues. I have motor issues in terms of, like, cognition. Like, my reflexes are just not good. They were never good. As a child, I had to go to, like, inpatient to train my reflexes, because when I would fall, or if something would, like, you would, like, throw something at me, for some reason, I don't know, I like, the instinct to, you know what I mean, was never there. They had to, like, bring me to someone to develop it. I had to go to speech therapy as a kid. I'm dynamically disabled. It is what it is. Whatever. My hands usually are okay, unless I'm doing something that requires precision. Then but again, like, I have all kinds of aids and things, and I know my body. So, like, I adapt with my body, and then if something's not working, then I just take a break and I get back to it when my body is having, like, a good day. The whole point of dynamic disability is that you're not on your, like, back like a sad, lost turtle every single day of your life. Comes and goes. You deal. So, I wish that I would have kept all that content up. The other thing that was insane redoxing was I don't understand, like, young artists' obsession with every artist must have a portfolio. I'm not interviewing for a job. I'm posting anime titties to Instagram. Like, a portfolio of what? And to be fair, I used to fall into this trap because when I was younger, I did have, like, the art station. I had it on my LinkedIn. Like, and I used to unironically share that to social media. But now it's like, I'm not here for a job. Why am I maintaining an art station? Why do I have to show you a portfolio? The social media is the portfolio. If you want to see what I'm up to, like, there it is. Plain as day. You can look at it with your eyes. Like, I'm not gonna make a portfolio to make you, like, I don't understand what the obsession is. If you're young and you think that every artist needs a portfolio, please explain it to me. And, like, I'm no stranger to portfolios. I went to college for art. Like, I've had to get ready for a vernissage. I had an industry job, January of this year, short term. Why do I need it on Instagram? That's really strange. They were like, yeah, I want you to, like, tell us, like, show us evidence of your internship at Twitter and tell us who you worked for and where you worked and share your CV. And I was like, no. Like, I'm telling you about the Twitter thing for the sake of, like, just for fun. It's just a little fun story from my youth. Like, that's all it is. I'm not telling you because I'm trying to get rehired at Twitter. Like, you don't need to know. You don't need to know who I worked for. You don't need to know where I worked. You don't need to know, like, what the company was called. You do not need to see my CV. Give me a break, bro. The argument for that was, it's not doxing. I was like, no, it kind of is, isn't it? Like, you're like, hello, please post pictures of yourself as a child and tell us who you worked for and give me your CV. Like, what are you gonna do with it, bro? I don't work in design. I've worked in education for years. You want to look up? You want to call the government of the school board of California again? Be like, she interned at Twitter. Like, bro, I didn't even tell them because it's not relevant to the job that I was doing for 4.5 years. People. My strategy now is just to delete comments and block people because it's like, why are you stressing me out on my page? Get lost. The good things that kind of came out of it, though, is now I draw live a couple times a week, and that's really fun. And then we do audience participation, and I ask people, like, what should I draw? What pose should I do? Do you want a tutorial? And that's nice for, like, street cred. I've gotten into posting whips. This is kind of another oopsie that I don't recommend. Not everything that you post has to be beautiful. Do you know what I mean? Like, not everything has to be, like, a finished, completed work, masterful lighting. The more pressure you put on yourself to constantly be performing at, like, 125%, the worse of a time you are going to have. It's gonna make content creation extremely unenjoyable. What you want to do is post what you feel. I've been into posting whips lately, and I like it a lot. I think it's really fun. People seem to really like it. It helps me keep track of what the hell is going on, like, with me. I can see my progress a lot better. It's fun. It's just fun. Post for fun. Though every time I find myself sliding back into posting like I owe somebody something, I find that things are no longer enjoyable, which is, it's not fun. It's not fun. Art is meant to be fun. I do take the hard stance that all art is inherently whimsical, and if you take it too seriously, you will remove any enjoyment that you may derive from the creation of art in all of its facets. And so I'm taking my own advice lately, and I'm trying to get real whimsical with it. I've been really into, oh, I've always been into collage. I love decoupage. I really do. So I've been doing that, and that's been fun. I think that that's part of my style. Something else good that came of the whole AI thing is that, so I, because again, okay, don't do as I say, not as I do. In an effort to antagonize people, I did invite some of that criticism by doing shit on purpose to look just strange enough that people would be like, is that AI? I just thought it was fun. Like, it's not, I just thought it would be fun. Because I'm a Y2K baby, truly. 90s kid. And I all art of that period had this weird, like, fuzzy dreaminess, almost like you were like looking at it through like a glass. Like, you like pick up a glass and look, and then see if you can make a coherent spyglass out of it to see what's on the other side of the bottom. It's very strange. It's very disconcerting. And that's how Y2K art feels for me. And so I would do things like create a halo around the line art, and at first I was doing it to antagonize people because I'm a bad person. But now I love it. I've been doing this thing lately, and it creates this weird blurred like halo effect that kind of makes you have to do a quadruple take to process what you're looking at. It's basically, so what I used to do was line art, clipping mask, and then change the line weights in just a regular layer above the clipping mask. What I do now is line art, change the line weights, clipping mask, recolor, and then copy that line art. The line art, if you're looking on Procreate, the bottommost line art, you Gaussian blur it to about like 2%, and you'll notice it creates, it's not quite a blurring of the line art, it's a halo effect. And then you merge the topmost, not the clipping mask, but the topmost and the bottommost, do that at the end when you're done, and everything takes on a very hazy appearance. I'm a big fan of textures. At the end of every piece, what I do is noise, chromatic aberration, noise, and then drop color, whatever colors that are complementary to your piece, and then multiply layer, and then Gaussian blur it, and then play around with the opacity. And I find it gives a really fun, like 80s rainbow bright sort of aesthetic to it, but it adds a little bit of like an unknowable like there's just something about it that's a little bit wrong. And that's really fun. I like adding blobs to my line art too. I stole that, by the way, from AI. Because I don't think that we can't take cues from AI. 15-year-olds, get her. I don't think that we can't take cues from AI. I think that sometimes it's fun to steal from the robot overlords, and as an antagonist in the lives of many, I do like to do that. So I will purposely skew my line art, particularly around any corners, by making all intersecting lines rounded, but then by making the outside like blobby and amorphous. And the way that I do it is I use a technical pen, and for line art I do everything on like between 1 and 2% for stability, but then when you crank that soldier boy and you add pressure, it kind of like, it does like a line blowout, like when you have a blowout on a tattoo, and it creates these like weird amorphous blobs. And I love it because, again, I think that the style that really feels like me is something that there's just something a little bit off about it. And exploring the theme of art, of like an art piece with something a little bit wrong about it, has kind of gotten me out of my like generic artwork slump. for which I am thrilled. So that's kind of my that's kind of my stance on that. So you know, this year, look, it was full of missteps. There's plenty of people out there that don't like me, and they think that I'm AI tracing, and no matter how much evidence I'm going to give them, it is what it is. You could choose to believe I work for Twitter, you could choose to not believe I work for Twitter, but bad news for you. Your girl interned at Twitter. Yeah, plenty of missteps, but like we learned a lot. I think that I learned moreover how to because social media is a treacherous place, and as much as you think you're prepared for notoriety, you are never really prepared for notoriety. And so it's like it's difficult to figure out the slider scale between defending yourself and becoming somebody's lol cow, which is not a boat that anybody wants to be in. And so when you have these garbage experiences, you kind of learn by force. And so I've learned a lot. And I don't regret, like, getting shat on. I don't regret having to deal with people being shitty, whatever. Because I do believe that I'm gonna surpass those accounts that are poo-pooing on people just because it gives them a hard on. But I learned a lot, so it was not all for naught. It was a good thing in the end. 2024, weird year. A lot of peeing myself, a lot of getting yelled at by teenagers on Twitter. But we learned a lot, and I'm still here, baby. I'm cancer-free. For now, Jesus Christ. For now. But, yeah. So, 2024, a lot of yapping. I'm very excited. YouTube has been very fun. I love scripting. I love filming. I'm beginning to love editing. It is what it is. I think that's my least favorite part. But I'm like happy to be here, and for as long as I'm alive, I would like to create content. You know, maybe this YAP session helped you in some way to deal with your own anxiety or your own cancer. And like, look, it's so easy as human beings to feel like we're the only ones that are going through something, and that in the entire world it's only me who is, you know, so anxious that I can't function and I suck and I'm lame. But like, no, bro, because I'm in my house fighting tooth and nail with agoraphobia. Like, whenever you feel like your mental health is ruining your life, remember that it is also ruining my life and that our lives are being ruined together. So at least we have each other. Because that's all we have, and on this bitch of an earth is each other. And remember that, again, like, there is no destination. Life is a perfect circle. That's the shape of the universe. You just kind of mosey on down, and there's peaks, there's valleys. People yell at you, you learn some things, your art style changes, it changes again, you hate everything you've ever made, you love everything you've ever made, and then one day you die, and then who knows what happens after that. But the point being, like, don't obsess over the destination, because there is none, and nobody is doing better than you, and nobody's doing worse. We're all just doing, like, quite literally the only things that we could possibly be doing. So there you go. If you liked this ramble, feel free to come hang out with me on the second channel. I want to do a like reaction style video, just silly things. This is my like silly things channel. Check out the main channel. My video on mouthwashing is coming. I'm doing a video on AI. I'm doing a series of videos on Auri 8. I am one person, so getting all of these projects out is driving me absolutely insane. I'm working on some art tutorials, hee hee hoo hoo, and yeah, please join me again. Check me out on Instagram, yell at me on Twitter, except not really because I don't have Twitter anymore. Join my Patreon, it's free, yay! And you get like really cool stuff, and I do like free bases that you can draw with, and you get like exclusive discount codes, and sometimes you get free merch just for shits and giggles. And I love you very much. Bye!